So Wall Street is slowly creeping into cryptocurrency through tokenizing real world assets. All right. And based on the data, ONDO Finance might be their preferred weapon of choice in terms of bridging all of this liquidity into cryptocurrency and then tokenizing real world assets. Okay. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be talking to you guys exactly about what ONDO is, how it works, what my opinion is, and what I think you should do going into the end of this year in 2025. Okay, if you watch the end of this video, you're gonna know more than 99% of people in cryptocurrency, even not just in general, but in the cryptocurrency market, about ONDO Finance. Okay, we're gonna break all that down. But before I do, I need to let you guys know that nothing in this video is financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. I'm not your financial counselor. What you decide to do with your money is up to you, and you need to take responsibility for your buys and your sells, okay? So the reason why I'm making this video is because I got a question from somebody in the block in the Telegram chat asking me about ONDO, okay? Asking me my opinion about ONDO, what I think about it, do I think it's worth it, etc., okay? So I think the first thing that we should talk about is what ONDO Finance is, all right? What ONDO Finance is. All right, let me just get a drink real quick. So what is ONDO Finance, okay? So what ONDO Finance is, all right, is it's essentially a platform or a network that is being built that is tokenizing real world assets. It's taking traditional assets like United States treasuries, treasury bills, bonds, all these types of things, and then they're putting it on the blockchain, and they're putting it and they're tokenizing it and putting it in a form of a token so that people on the blockchain can use it, which improves accessibility, liquidity, etc. Okay. Now, an example, like I said in previous videos, right? Stablecoins, with the Genius Act being passed, tokenized treasuries is essentially the way to take stablecoins to the next level. All right. Instead of just giving them $1 on a blockchain, they're giving you tokenized treasuries, and then those tokenized treasuries are its real yield. Okay, ONDO takes that, puts it into treasuries, they give the yield back to you. That's the model. Okay, and then they put the middle in their pocket. They put the margin between what they give you and what they get from the T-bills. They get the rest. Okay, so and for those of you guys who don't know, treasuries, T-bills, bonds is essentially their government debt securities that people can use if you want to buy some of the United States government debt for a certain period of time. When that time period unlocks, then you get your principal back plus the yield. So the government basically pays you to, basically loan them money to pay their debt, okay? So what ONDO is doing is they're essentially, their long-term vision is they're going to be bridging all different types of traditional assets, and they're going to be putting it on the blockchain, okay? Now, obviously the benefits of this are if you could tokenize assets and put them on the blockchain, that means 24/7 trading. That means infinitely divisible, which means that you don't need to have one single product. You can fractionalize them, put them into infinite parts essentially, and it gives people more access. The blockchain allows people all over the world to access these things as long as regulations and compliance allow it, which I'm assuming it eventually will, because then that means more people buying US products, all right? And then liquidity as well. It allows things to be more liquid. You could trade it on the weekends, you could trade it at night when it's not market hours, all right? So overall, it just makes it more accessible, more liquid, and 24/7 trading, okay? Those are just a few benefits that tokenization offers to people. And then that unlocks a whole host of other benefits when you get a little bit more complicated into it. But to start, those are some benefits that tokenizing assets do, all right? So core products, okay? Let's talk about ONDO's core products. So the first thing that they do is, we've talked about this a little bit, it's called OUSG, all right? OUSG is essentially tokenized treasuries. So they give you the real yield back. Instead of just giving you a stable coin, they give you the real world yield. So the Fed funds rate, they park it into US T-bills, and then they pay you, let's say the Fed funds rate is 4.25, they pay you 3.75, and then they take 0.5, okay? The OUSG, that's what they do, okay? Tokenized treasuries, they give you real yield that is sustainable, that is essentially risk-free, okay? It's actually a risk-off product, believe it or not, because when things in the economy aren't doing well, people go to treasuries because they're scared to take on too much risk. So they just sit in T-bills, they sit on dollars, and they just earn a yield until they're comfortable allocating into other assets, okay? So custodied off-chain, but tokenized for DeFi access, okay? So the thing is that, you know, when ONDO, when you park your money into ONDO then takes that and they give that money to a custodian, and then that custodian puts it into, you know, U.S. Treasuries, obviously, okay? So that's how their first product works, the OUSG. It's tokenized treasuries, all right? Now, the second product that they have is called Flux, all right? Flux is essentially a lending protocol that is built on top of OUSG that allows you to essentially take stablecoins or take tokenized treasuries and put them up as collateral to take loans. So basically, if you want to take a loan out and you have, let's say you have USDC or whatever stablecoins they offer, you could take that. Let's say you have $10,000 as, let's say you have $10,000 in stablecoins or $10,000. You can then take those dollars, you could use Flux Finance, you could put that $10,000 up as collateral, and then you could take a loan out and get, let's say it's 80% loan to value. You could take $8,000 and now you have $8,000 that you don't have. And if you don't pay that loan back, they take your stablecoins, and then if you do pay it back, then you get $8,000 you don't have, okay? So it's essentially a lending protocol for tokenized treasuries and stablecoins, all right? So I'm assuming you could probably use OUSG as collateral too, whatever OUSG assets you have. You could take that, you could use that to lend and to borrow as well, okay? So those are the two main products, and then obviously we have the ONDO token, which we're gonna get into a little bit later, all right? Now, let's talk about the team and the founder, okay? The team and the founder. So the founder is Nathan Allman, all right? Nathan Allman was a Harvard graduate. He was a former associate, former investment banker at Goldman Sachs, I believe, all right? And he's very, very respected in the tokenization RWA sector, okay? So this is a very, very competent individual in terms of leading a project to tokenizing real world assets, all right? So he's definitely competent. He definitely knows what he's doing, definitely knows what he's talking about. And the team, I'm not gonna go over everybody in the team, but essentially their team is filled with a bunch of people that are pretty experienced in terms of the crypto native engineers, a lot of former engineers from BlackRock, Bridgewater, and a few other people, crypto native engineers. It's a good team, very, very solid team. And I'm pretty confident that part of their fundamentals is taken care of very well, okay? Nathan Allman seems very competent. He knows what he's doing, and that's why he has the #1 product for RWAs in all of crypto, okay? Okay, guys, so next I want to talk about the fundamentals a little bit, specifically the tokenomics or token economics and the supply, okay? We're going to talk about the ONDO token a little bit more. And for those of you guys who don't know what tokenomics are, it's the economics of the token economics, all right? And how does the token work? What's its utility? Essentially, what is the supply and demand of the token, okay? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to break it down a little bit. And we're going to talk about what's the point of the token. I don't think a lot of people understand this a lot. They understand the platform, they understand the protocol, they understand the products and services maybe, or they understand the basics, but what is the point of the token, right? What's the point of the token? Why should they even have a token if they even should have a token, or if it's just for speculation, right? Or if it's just for a way for, if it's just another thing that the founder and the team can use to make money on you, right? So I think it's important to go over that and understand what's the point of the token, okay? And what's the supply of the token, okay? More importantly, okay? So let's start with the supply, all right? We'll go over supply and demand. So total supply is 10 billion ONDO, all right? ONDO tokens, all right? Circulating supply right now is 3.4 billion, okay? That means 34% are unlocked, all right? Which is not a lot, okay? On average, you want to have at least, in general, as a general principle, you guys want to have at least 50% unlocked 50% of the tokens unlocked, so there's not too much more inflation to go. But right now, ONDO is not in that phase. ONDO has plenty of tokens to still become unlocked over time. All right. Now, and here's the other thing, is that most of the supply that is vested and unlocked is held by the team, the VCs, and the ONDO treasury. Okay. So a lot of those tokens that are yet to be unlocked are by the team, the venture capitalists, and the treasury. Similar to how a company holds treasury stock, ONDO holds a lot of treasury tokens. So at any point they could sell those tokens, especially when they become unlocked. Okay. Now, the good thing about this is that if you actually look at the vesting schedule for the ONDO tokens, every single unlock is in mid-January. Okay, so every mid-January, ONDO essentially releases a ton of tokens, and that causes a lot of risk, which is a lot of potential sell pressure. Because when a lot of tokens are locked, that means they can't sell them. When the tokens become unlocked, depending on the price and depending on how much profit they're in, they could definitely sell those tokens, and then that's sell pressure down. Okay, and in mid-January of 2026 would be the next unlock for ONDO, and that would be 1.94 billion ONDO, which is about 61% of the supply. Okay, so in other words, over half of the supply of ONDO tokens that are out right now, half of those are going to be unlocked in January of 2026. All right, so essentially a lot of ONDO tokens that are going to be unlocked in January of 2026. So we'll get into what that means in a little bit later on in the video. But yeah, massive supply increase every January. It looks like that's the unlock schedule for ONDO tokens. Okay, so essentially that's the inflation for ONDO. Okay, the ONDO tokens, that's the inflation. All right. Now the utility of the token. So what's the point of the token, right? Well, for now, it's just a governance token. All right, which basically means that you can vote on different decisions when it comes to the ONDO protocol. So whenever they vote on something, whenever they vote on a change or some sort of decision when it comes to the products or the platform, you essentially, if you have ONDO tokens, depending on how many ONDO tokens you have, you could stake, and then your voting power is the amount of tokens that you have compared to the rest of the people who are voting. Okay, so it's essentially a voting token. To be honest with you, right now it doesn't mean anything because the founders and the team have most of the tokens, so they're going to have the majority of the voting power, so the team can do whatever they want. Okay, that's the truth. A lot of people have it's fake governance, at least in the beginning, until the tokens get distributed out more. Okay, so now potentially in the future, what they could do with the ONDO token is they could have staking. So you could lock up your ONDO tokens, and then revenue from the protocol, assuming that this thing gets traction, it's very profitable, it gets a lot of revenue, they give that revenue back to the ONDO token holders, which would make it actually pretty, that would be the ideal utility behind it. Okay, so basically if you lock up your ONDO tokens and agree not to sell them, you get a staking reward, or in traditional finance that's called a dividend. Okay, and then the dividend pays you based on how much money ONDO makes. Depending on how much you have staked, that's the percentage that you get in terms of the revenue. Okay, the revenue of the ONDO token. If you own the token and you lock it up, you stake it, and you agree not to sell it, then they reward you with revenue distributions from the platform. Okay, so that would be the future revenue. That would be the ideal situation. Once regulations come through on DeFi, I'm assuming that would happen. Revenue distributions would be fantastic for this, because this has a very good opportunity to be very profitable in the future. Okay, so that's the tokenomics. That's the supply and demand of the token. All right. All right, so let's talk about partnerships. All right, partnerships. Now, ONDO has real partnerships. Okay, these are not marketing partnerships. These are real operational integrations and very, very good partnerships. Okay, so first one is BlackRock. Okay, the OUSG is partnered with BlackRock legitimately. For those of you guys who don't know, BlackRock has a software that they use to essentially risk manage and monitor a lot of assets, and that's called the Aladdin software. All right, and basically ONDO's OUSG product, the tokenized treasury product that we talked about earlier, that is on BlackRock's Aladdin. So it's listed on the Aladdin software, OUSG, tokenized treasury. So obviously they're planning on partnering or integrating maybe with their BUIDL fund or with other products that they're going to be using on the blockchain, maybe their ETFs, who knows, okay? But the point is that it's listed, all right? OUSG is listed, and it's one of the only crypto products that are actually listed on Aladdin, especially altcoins. Not many altcoins are listed on the Aladdin software, but OUSG is, all right? So something to keep in mind. All right, Coinbase, all right. ONDO listed, and it's integrated with the Base layer 2. So for those of you guys who don't know, Coinbase has a layer 2. It's called Base. It's a layer 2 on Ethereum. It's on the Optimism stack, and ONDO is listed and integrated into the Base blockchain. So I'm assuming ONDO is going to be, their products are going to be integrated with Base, and it's just going to be compatible with Coinbase, okay? It's obviously listed on Coinbase as well, the centralized exchange, and it's available on all the wallets, etc. Okay, and then the last partnership that they have, the last major partnership, is Circle. Okay, so OUSG is actually used in a lot of USDC stablecoin strategies. So USDC, they essentially integrate their ONDO's tokenized treasury product, OUSG, and they integrate that in order to make money and to maximize profits. Okay, so they're basically partnered with them. Tokenized treasuries on chain, no joke at all. Okay. So that's the part. Those are the partnerships worth noting, all right? But there are other partnerships, but those are the operational integrations. Those are the legitimate partnerships that are worth noting, okay? So you got BlackRock, you got Coinbase, and you have Circle, okay? It's also worth noting that World Liberty Financial, which is Donald Trump, the president of the United States, his essentially crypto fund, or whatever you want to call it, all right? They also have ONDO Finance, okay? They own ONDO. It was one of the altcoins that they bought, all right? So they actually have exposure to it. Why do they have exposure to it? I don't know. We'll see. Probably because they know it's valuable, all right? But or at least has future long-term potential for sure. All right. So the major investors. Let's talk about the major investors. We have the Founders Fund, which is basically Peter Thiel's VC firm. Okay, Peter Thiel's the owner of PayPal. All right, and Peter Thiel's VC firm heavily invested in ONDO Finance. Basically, big VC in Silicon Valley in California. Legitimate, big, very big player in terms of the VC world. All right, is invested in ONDO. Okay, Coinbase Ventures. Coinbase is a big investor in ONDO. All right, Pantera Capital, which is probably the biggest, most significant plugged-in venture capitalist in all of crypto. They're crypto native. They're definitely the biggest crypto native VC firm. All right. And they're pretty big. They're heavily allocated into ONDO. Okay. Tiger Global, big hedge fund. All right. Tech investor, just overall tech investor, is invested with ONDO. All right. They are a VC with ONDO. And then Wintermute, which is a market maker and a liquidity provider. Okay. So they buy the tokens. They essentially become a market maker, and they help balance the price on the margin. All right. And provide plenty of liquidity for people to be able to trade in and out of the ONDO token, okay? And they're also a VC, all right? So those are the investors, big players, no joke at all, okay? So what are the risks and the red flags, all right? Let's talk about the risks and the red flags next, all right? Counterparty risk is the first one, all right? The thing is that you guys have to, when you guys are investing in crypto, you have to understand who your counterparties are, all right? And who are the people that are in the middle of you and your money, or you and the product, so that you can assess whether or not the risk is worth the reward for you, okay? Now, if you're using ONDO, obviously the counterparty is ONDO. The first one is ONDO, okay? If you get hacked, if ONDO gets hacked, or if ONDO has a security breach or a compromise or a bug, and then somebody compromises that, some of your money can be lost, okay? So that's number one. The first one is the ONDO platform and the code that ONDO has, all right? And the second one is the custodians holding ONDO's assets, all right? So basically, when you deposit your money with ONDO doesn't just go out themselves. They take that and they put it with a custodian, and then the custodian then makes the money. So there's another step in between ONDO and and the direct money. So that would be I guess in this situation, it would be the United States government would be your counterparty. I would say that that's a pretty low risk counterparty, but regardless, it is still a counterparty. We do have a debt problem in the United States, and or a government spending problem, I like to say, because that's the reason why the government debt is there, is because of the government spending. But those are the counterparties, okay? The U.S. T-bills or the U.S. government, I guess, and ONDO are your counterparties, okay? Token value capture is another risk, okay? We don't know if the token value accrual is going to happen, okay? We don't know if they're going to eventually give the revenue back to the holders of the ONDO token. We don't really know. That's when the token actually becomes very, very useful and has very, very real utility to it. As of right now, the token doesn't really have much utility. I'm going to be honest with you guys, all right? Right now, it's essentially just a speculation token, and it's a governance token, but the governance is fake, and it's an illusion, essentially, okay? So that's one of the other things. We don't know yet. We're not certain if the revenue is going to be there, okay? Now, obviously, you would want to speculate and look ahead and say, eventually they will give the revenue back to the token holders, right? But I'm just saying that we don't know that for sure. So right now would be a good time to speculate, and would be a good time to consider, getting in early before the revenue distribution happens, because by the time the revenue distribution happens, all the value, a lot of people are going to be buying it. It's probably going to be a lot more expensive than it is right now, right? So it's a cheap asset. You're essentially betting on the token utility of revenue distribution, revenue sharing with the ONDO token holders, okay? The next risk is that there's a lot of inflation still to come. I talked about this earlier. 34% of the supply is unlocked, okay? And in January of 2026, over half the supply is going to be unlocked again. 1.94 billion ONDO tokens get unlocked in January of 2026. So by that time, there's probably going to be a pretty high amount of sell pressure on the ONDO token, and it's probably going to get hit pretty hard with a downturn at that point, because there's so much supply that's coming out, and it only happens once a year, it looks like. So basically, there's going to be a lot of sell pressure at that time, okay? So you have to be very, very careful. And then future competition as well. So tokenized treasuries is not going away. There's going to be a lot of competition. Maybe BlackRock makes their own tokenized treasury fund. Franklin Templeton, Fidelity, JP Morgan, all of these guys could create their own products for tokenized treasuries. They could all create their own products and maybe push ONDO out eventually. We don't know yet. Okay, so those are the risks for ONDO. All right. So market opportunity. All right, now we just talked about the risks a little bit. We broke it down. Now we're going to talk about the opportunity. Okay, so the opportunity is this, guys. RWAs is a big narrative probably for the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, it's not going away. All right, the RWA narrative is not going away. It's going to be one of the biggest narratives. Wall Street coming in, tokenizing everything, tokenization of securities. You heard Larry Fink already say it. All right, it's not going away. It's probably going to be here for a long time. A growing asset class, okay? Tokenized treasuries alone are projected to hit anywhere from 800 billion to 1.2 trillion. So we'll just say 1 trillion by 2030. By the year 2030, 5 years from now, tokenized treasuries alone are estimated to hit $1 trillion. All right, and that it could be more than that. We really don't know. It depends on how fast this stuff gets adopted. Okay, and ONDO, in terms of the tokenization, in terms of real world assets, in terms of that narrative, ONDO is the #1 token in terms of total value locked, as well as market cap for all of crypto. All of crypto, ONDO is the #1. So you can see, in terms of the tokenization, in terms of real world assets, ONDO is the #1. It's essentially the Bitcoin of RWAs. All right, RWAs. So ONDO is definitely positioned the best right now in terms of value accrual and confidence in terms of big players and people who would be interested in these types of products. All right. So what is my opinion, right? What's my opinion on ONDO? Do I think that you should get it? You asked for my opinion on it. I'm going to give it to you right now. Okay. I broke down the token. I broke down the good, the bad, the ugly. Now we're going to talk about my opinion. Okay. So the first thing that we want to talk about is I think that they have a great team and they have a very, very competent founder. Okay. These guys are definitely competent in terms of being able to make this work. All right. I think that if there's somebody who can create a product that is is going to tokenize real world assets. I think this team can do it. They seem competent from the tech side and the finance side. All right. Product market fit, very strong product market fit. Okay, like I said, tokenized treasuries, lending, borrowing, all that stuff for now. There's probably going to come out with a lot of other products as well. And this product will be integrated a lot, I'm assuming, with other crypto products, which will help it accrue more value, okay, such as USDC, BlackRocks, Biddle Fund, etc. Okay. Now, the tokenomics, in my opinion, are not that good. There's not really any real utility to the token. All right, the supply is pretty bad. There's no real demand. Like in terms of just the token, there's not like the token utility isn't really that good yet until there's revenue distribution to token holders. Then we're talking in terms of utility and demand for the actual token, the real demand. Okay, right now I think the ONDO token is just a speculation token. There's nothing going on. All right, it's not really worth it. Okay, but do I think that you can make money with this token? I do. I do think that you can make money with this token. Okay, unlocks is still a risk, like I said before. Less than half the supply is out. 34% is unlocked. January of 2026. There's going to be more token. There's going to be 61% of the tokens that are out right now. 61% is going to be added to the circulating supply. Okay, so that's a lot of sell pressure. I would recommend in the short term, if you guys want to use this during the bull market to make some money, I would recommend you guys being out of this position by January of 2026, because if you don't, you run the risk of a bunch of the VCs and a bunch of whales dumping on your head. All right, so we want to avoid that. We want to get in. We want to take advantage of it. We want to make money with the token, and we want to use it. And then once those tokens come out, there will be some sell pressure down, and then we can reevaluate down here when the tokens are really cheap again. Okay, so I would recommend, if you're going to get this thing under $1, I think is pretty good. You get out of this thing before January of 2026. Not financial advice, but based on what I'm seeing, that seems like the play for ONDO. All right. So if you guys want to get some under $1. I think right now it's like 80 cents, 90 cents. You know, you can get some under $1, and then by the time the tokens unlock, you know, be out of that position so that you don't get dumped on by the whales. But then you also have to think that other people are probably thinking the same exact thing. So maybe be out of it a little bit earlier than that, November, October, who knows. All right. But those are just some things to keep in mind. Not financial advice. All right. Not financial advice. So we talked about unlocks. We talked about, I think the investors and obviously the partnerships are legitimate. All right. This is a real thing. This isn't just, you know, made up fairy tale nonsense. Right. So long-term thesis, I think if RWAs and tokenization takes off, I think that ONDO is right now, in terms of crypto, is in the perfect position to accrue the most value and to be a really, really big hitter. All right, under $1 long term is probably really, really good if RWAs and tokenization does take off. Okay, if I were you guys, I would DCA into ONDO. I would get a bag of it, however much you want to get. Be out of the asset before the next unlock, which is mid-January. Probably by the end of the year would be the best, because a lot of other people are thinking the same thing. So I would want to front run that. All right. So that's my opinion, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this. For the person who asked me about ONDO, I hope this was a really good breakdown, a solid breakdown for you. And I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope you guys got value from this. Very, very in-depth, but these are going to get better and better over time. All right. This is the second one that I've done. The first one was Lido. And I hope you guys enjoyed, okay? If you guys did enjoy the video, if you guys liked it, all right, like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe to my YouTube channel, all right? Comment, let me know what you guys think about my opinion. Let me know what you guys, I want to know your guys' opinion in the comments as well, okay? Instagram, Chase Your Race, TikTok, Chase Your Race. If you guys want to get coached by me privately, jump in the Telegram chat. We can get you set up, personalized coaching, consulting, okay? Nothing in this video is financial advice. Nothing that I say on any platform is financial advice. All right, I'm just giving you guys my opinion and what I think, and it's really just for entertainment purposes only, okay? So thank you guys. Hope you guys have a good day. Bless up.